The Arctic, as we know it, as I knew it back in '77, is a completely different place. It's been basically about a 10% loss of ice per decade for the last couple decades, but it really didn't hit home to us because of the variability, interannual variability, till 2007. And 2007 was the year that the ice just completely disappeared. That summer, we were working in the Eastern Beaufort. We were out at Katowice. We were in the Eastern Beaufort, and there was a tremendously different summer. I've never seen anything quite like it. No ice anywhere. A lot of things that were seen in abundance that we normally don't see. Huge, enormous copepod populations, for instance. A lot of jellyfish that we don't see. I mean, the ocean was just packed with jellyfish. And jellyfish are kind of a dead-end trophic step. I mean, in the Gulf of Mexico, turtles eat jellyfish, but you know, jellyfish are not really consumed by a lot of higher trophic level organisms. I mean, I don't see polar bears running around or walrus eating jellyfish. And so that was unusual. And there was lots of them. I mean, they were dense. And that was the summer we saw tremendous erosion of the Arctic coastline. So it hit home in 2007 that, wow, we are really dealing with a different system now. You know, I mean, the Arctic assumed its permanent ice cover sometime over the last, general consensus is last 1.5 or so million years, somewhere in that area. Of course, there's been a lot of interglacial, glacial cycles over that period where the ice has waned and come back. But that's happened over tens of thousands of years. This cycle here, in which we've lost ice over a period of no more than a couple decades, is unprecedented. So it's the rate of change that makes us a little bit nervous, a little apprehensive about what's in store for the Arctic food web and for a lot of the highest trophic level creatures we see there. The Inupiats are accustomed to going out in their boats and fishing. They do it all summer long, and their boats are not designed for big waves, and because they don't normally see big waves. And a family went out and went fishing, and we're gone for a while. And I remember being on the beach at Katowice with a local native who was butchering a bearded seal they had just killed. And I was talking to him about the bearded seal. I wanted to see the stomach contents, what have you. And all of a sudden, his cell phone rang. And he talked for a few minutes in Inupiaq. I didn't understand what he was saying. And then he just left. He left the ulu there. He left the the bearded seal there. Didn't say a word and just took off. And I was left standing there going, what's going on? I mean, I didn't understand. It was a few hours later when we saw the whole town, things moving very quickly in the town, boats being mobilized and pushed into the water and people running everywhere, that we found out that at the moment he had received that phone call, a boat had come back with only part of the family had left a week earlier or several days earlier, and that was the mom and one of the boys. And she had quite a story to tell in which they had been on a barrier island, they had been in a spit, they had been camping out, the boat was anchored, and the wind came up. And they were just getting ready to have dinner, and they just finished fishing for the day. And the wind came up, and the seas came up, and all of a sudden, the island that they never normally see inundated with water in the summertime, all of a sudden, it was awash with water, and the boat, which had been anchored nearby, all of a sudden broke its anchor and started drifting away. And so the father started running after the boat through the water, and his 15-year-old son following him. And the boat got into deeper and deeper water as the wind and waves pushed it off the shoal, and they both were swimming for it, and in the process of swimming for it, they both drowned. that was a very poignant example of how things have changed. They weren't accustomed to situations like that. They weren't accustomed to waves of that size ever, you know, and having to deal with the Arctic, the new Arctic. The new Arctic is not a place for small boats and to be camped out on a low elevational barrier island anymore. It could be washed over easily in the summers now, when in the past that never would happen. And that's what I mean about adaptation. Humans have to adapt as well as the animals. The predictions for an ice-free Arctic have ranged from 20, in the literature have ranged from recent literature, 2050 to 2100, and with some papers saying 2025, year 2025. But there are I have other colleagues who are convinced, and I believe them, that we're going to see an ice-free Arctic probably by 2020. Maybe it could happen in the next 5 years, because of the positive feedbacks between loss of ice, absorption of long-wave radiation by a black surface. So once you melt the ice, once you lose ice and lose that albedo, which is reflecting long-wave radiation back into the atmosphere, now you have a dark surface that's absorbing heat. It's just like on a hot day in Texas, you're walking down the street in bare feet, you're gonna walk on the white line, which is reflecting heat back. And the pavement, the black pavement, is very, very hot. And that's because it's a dark surface absorbing heat. The same parallel in the Arctic, with a black ocean, an optically black ocean, and an optically white reflective ice surface. Same deal. And so when you melt a little bit of ice, you are adding that much more heat to the ocean. And so the positive feedback loop is accelerating ice loss. As a consequence, we're seeing the models, projections just didn't seem to have not captured this very rapid positive feedback, and so we're seeing things changing a lot faster than we thought. I try not to get too depressed about it. You can think about it as depressing, but at the same time, there's a lot of opportunities there to understand these systems. Sure, you see some unfortunate things. You see baby walrus drowning because they have no ice, their moms are gone, and that's sad. You hear accounts about polar bears that swim enormous numbers of miles and eventually drown, or if they do reach the coast, they're so emaciated they can't survive. Those are sad stories, but we're an optimistic society, and scientists also tend to want to look at the bright side just like anybody else, and we're hoping to see adaptations to this changing system so that organisms and humans can adapt